Greetings and welcome, everyone. It's an all-you-can-geek movie cast. I'm one of your hosts, Jim Gast, joined by Mike Sneedy,
What's up?
Corey Feinside,
Yo.
and Tony Korkanakis.
Hey.
Welcome, guys. Welcome, listeners. Welcome, viewers. We are live right now, Twitch, Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock. Please join us for these live broadcasts. If you cannot, YouTube has all the great content for us over there, too. And, I just got notified we went live on Twitch because I subscribed.
There you
go. Same thing with YouTube. Subscribe over there. That way you get notified when we go live, when we post. Sorry. Leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you guys over there too. And then all the audio stuff's on everywhere Spotify and iTunes. So you're good there. All right, guys. This is our TV shows of the year from 2024. So this will be completing the episodes, and we're moving into 2025 entirely after this one. We have our most anticipated, I believe, next episodes. Which is not a full episode, so we will be covering some news, but we will be giving our most anticipated next week. So stay tuned for that. But this is our best of TV shows, our worst of TV shows, or disappointing, and our surprises. Now, I will give you guys a caveat. I probably will mention a spoiler here. It's just mild spoilers for stuff because one of my disappointments. I can't mention it without why I'm disappointed for it. So if you are worried about spoilers, sorry. There's not much we can do about it at this point in time. But actually, let me get my God, I don't have my pen here. Oh, yeah, there we go. I want to get some notes down so I can keep track of this so I can run them off to you guys when we're done. So I will lead us off here with our most disappointing, guys. I love this. Kick it off with the most disappointing. Disappointing or bad? And mine's just going to be disappointing because it was by no means bad. By no means was this. Do not misconstrue this to thinking it's bad. Squid Game Season 2 is the most disappointing for 2024 for me. We waited a very long time. And I'm sorry about spoilers here. I'm not going to give you many plot examples, but we waited a very long time for this to give us a part one of a season. And the worst part is not even calling it part one. Tell us it's part one. It's my biggest gripe with this thing. I hate the fact that they say season 3 is coming next year, and it's not. It's a part 2, and that's why I'm annoyed with it. Loved the show though. It was a fantastic season, but disappointing because I just was like, this is a hard stop. That was just me. So I just didn't like that.
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
And I'm sure
it's kind of my feelings on it too, because it was great, don't get me wrong, but I felt hoodwinked a little bit because
that's the worst part about it. You just feel
because you're going through it and you're like
there's no way this is ending in
like how are they gonna fit all this in into like one episode? It's like this is gonna be terrible, and it's like they're not
right. And I wish they would have just said that, like, been honest with, like, this is, part 1 of 2 or something like that, and,
and it sucks
expectation with the first season. So
I was so excited, and not that I'm super excited for season 3.
I'm glad we're getting it this year now.
That does help.
It does help.
Otherwise, I think the world would be a lot more angry if they
100%.
weren't getting it this year. I think we would.
100%.
Yeah. All right, that's my disappointing. Mike, your disappointment?
There were 2 candidates for this, and I kept going back and forth between the Like a Dragon show and Batman. What is it called? Cape Crusader.
Cape Crusader.
Yeah.
I forgot that came out.
I'm gonna say, well, just based on expectations, personally, I'm going with Batman Cape Crusader. While
the spiritual successor. Yeah.
While the Yakuza show wasn't great, I ended up watching it through and being like, oh, this isn't that bad. It's not what I would want, or most fans I think would want. But Batman Cape Crusader, I had way higher expectations for. It's Bruce Timm. It's in the style of the animated series. You have a decent sound alike for Conroy's Batman, and it just gave you, like, I don't know, a handful of standalone sort of episodes that minimally featured Batman and were very loosely tied together, and it didn't up the ante or raise the expectations in any shape or form compared to the animated series. It went backwards in some ways, and it was just
that's it.
You're just like, and coming off another show that was in a similar vein that we might mention later in these lists.
Maybe there might be some here.
You just expect a modern sort of like reimagining of an older 90s cartoon, which I guess this is. It seems like it was. They wouldn't say that maybe, but it is.
Yeah.
You expect them to just take some steps forward, and it didn't. And in the end, it ended up being pretty forgettable. And
I
mean, that's
honestly
what I
forgot
think
about it
Tony
until
said.
you just mentioned it.
I think Tony said it best during our podcasts was like, what's this doing? What's this doing new? What is this bringing to us that we didn't get from the animated series? Yeah.
Or who is it for, really? Because you'd expect get the old animated series fans, that seems like who it was catered to. But then you just sort of, it's not really a continuation. You're starting over, and it's just not about anything other than, like, I don't know, Barbara Gordon or their weird take on Harley Quinn. I don't know. It was strange.
That was
Just strange and not really that compelling. So most disappointing for me.
All right, Corey.
It's kind of a cheat because I didn't really watch all of it. But
that's fair. That's fair.
But I'm gonna go with the Acolyte because I was very highly anticipating this show. I thought that it was gonna be like, all right, we're gonna get Star Wars. We're gonna focus on the dark side and the origins of the dark side in a way, in a little bit, like some more deeper insights to that. But instead, we got like poorly written characters, no real like development of these characters, and the motivations of the characters just don't make any sense. Like where they start, the reasons they're doing things, and then the end game as far as why they're continuing to do certain things, and then the switch off of their
wrong podcast.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get there. We'll get there now. But the switch to like the motivations go back. This is like hypocritical stuff going on. It's just so weird. I mean, there's a couple moments in it, but that's it, and that's then just
I agree.
Not good.
Yeah, I mean, I was annoyed when it was canceled, but overall, you're like, I completely understand why.
Because fine with it. Yeah. If we're gonna get more of that, that's not what I want. So yeah, and like Churro was saying, I really wanted to see this be more of like, hey, we're gonna go outside of the norm here, but it wasn't.
Yeah, no, that's the disappointing part of it, and like they just threw in cameos that didn't make sense, and like the plot just didn't work. So, all right, Tony, disappointing.
Mine is actually kind of in your vein. Well, no, not in your vein, but has some overlap. But it's Cobra Kai.
Okay.
And the thing is, we knew it was only like I only watched part 1, and there's 3 parts to the final season. Second part is out. I think third part's coming out soon, or might already be out. I don't even know.
I think it's April.
Oh my god. Yeah. So what can I say? It's just outlived its thing. And I almost said The Boys here, the Boys season. But I'm higher on Cobra Kai, so that kind of like Mike, I'm gonna say that. But just these shows, the problem with them, I think, and we could go into this on a whole other different podcast. It's different when you have like a serialized show that goes year to year, like you kind of just roll one into the other. Like, okay, sure, you have a couple months break, and if it's bad, you're just like, okay, well, hopefully next season's better, like Walking Dead or Lost or whatever, insert anything. But with these streaming shows, because it was so reliant on the numbers and the number crunchers, being like, is it profitable? Still do this, and the other thing. We could go like 2, 3, 4 years. I mean, Stranger Things, we're still waiting on, right? Years between seasons. So when you have these stories where it's like, what are you doing new? Go tie into Batman too. It's like, what are you doing here? And Cobra Kai is just, and I think I use this term, it's spinning its wheels, where they're retreading like covered arcs, and like this is the final season. So like, I expect closures. I expect loose threads to be tied and stuff like that. But so far, at least from part 1, we didn't get that. We got the same old like grudges between multiple different characters, and it's just like, come on, man, I can't go through this anymore. Like, it's just not interesting, because by the end it's always the status quo once again. It's like, oh my god, this person betrayed him, wow, that's so weird. Or it's like, oh, this person that should be locked up in jail. Like, it's kind of stupid. And I didn't even watch part 2 because I knew part 3 is going to come out, and I was like, I'll wait until part 3 is about to come out to watch part 2. But
that's me.
Just trash.
That's what happened. Yeah, I watched the first episode of it last. year.
Yeah.
I watched the first episode last year, and I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this right now because it's like, it's the same kind of. It's almost like the same opening from the last two. I'll give it the last two seasons at least. It's almost like the same opening for the last two seasons. And
based off of what I heard too, yeah, you can just basically like, you already know the plot. You already know what's gonna happen. It's just the things that get there between, like the little details between, it changes, but like the starting, the middle, and the end are the same. It's like
it's bad.
So, yeah, all right. Surprises for 2024. These are the good ones. Well, good surprises, I hope. Maybe bad surprises. Fallout was my surprise. It should have made my list. It did not make my list. It's a very good series. It's a fantastic series. Let me rephrase that. I really enjoyed that thing. Loved it. I can't wait for another season. Again, this is one of those things where you're like, shh, we gotta wait like years, unfortunately, for this thing. I think it's hopefully next year, but we'll see. But yeah, so I was very low expectations going into this show. I obviously did not expect it to be anywhere near as good as it was, and they somehow nailed the feel of the game while giving us something brand new. And that's what we're just talking about on the show. Like, give us something new here, make us enjoy it, and they did it. So I definitely think it was great. Good surprise.
nice.
Mike?
Mine was also Fallout. If we
Nice.
recall my bold predictions from a week or two ago, that I thought it was going to be a disaster. And I was pleasantly surprised. So much so that it's honestly going to be in my list later, so I'm not going to go into it too much here. But just way better than I expected, and way more true to the series than what I expected, especially in comparison to the Like a Dragon Yakuza series.
Yeah, I mean, especially also from Amazon. So it's like both Amazon shows, both video game properties turned into TV shows. One's taking a more original take, but still using the heart and soul of what Fallout is, while the other one is taking the characters and pulling out the heart and soul of what it is.
Yeah.
So,
what made the game great. Yeah. So, all right. Corey?
My surprise is actually Ranma One Half anime on Netflix. That like came out of nowhere for me. Tony mentioned it. Like, hey, we're doing this, and I was like, oh shoot, really? There was a good one when it came out, but redoing it with the art and the characters and even the voice acting. Like the voice acting anime is getting so much better. It's just amazing what they were doing here, and it's such a fun, light, and happy. Like you're just happy when you watch it. There's no.
Well, I feel like that was the original too. Like the original was always just
I mean, but it's so awesome that they're bringing it to a wider audience on Netflix now, and it's really well done.
Yeah, cool. All right, Corey. Tony. Sorry, Tony. Surprise.
I think this is a hot take. I think this is going to be a hot take, but I'll actually say Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix. Just because my expectations were so low for this that when I watch it, look, I'm not gonna say it's excellent. I wouldn't even say it's great. I'd say it's mostly okay to good with parts that are really hot. Like it's okay, that's really cool, and then there's parts that are really low. But the thing is, they tried it, they didn't stick the landing, but I'm willing to give them I'm their day one for season 2. And the thing that really stuck with me was that the cast was very enthusiastic about it, and I usually don't care for younger /child/teen actors and stuff like that, except for Stranger Things. And I think this is the group that really made me feel that since we had Stranger Things, right? Where I was like, oh, I actually really adore all the cast. They look like they're having fun with it, right? Which I think is important, especially if you're trying to convey these characters that are mostly supposed to be comedic in nature, although they obviously have their parts. Aspects of the adaptation were obviously a little weird at times, or not the way I would have done things or wanted them. But compared to the big budget movie we had with M. Night Shyamalan, it's night and day. Clearly night and day.
I agree with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, again. And it doesn't make my top shows, probably wouldn't even make top 10. But just in terms of hey, this wasn't a train wreck. Veered off a little bit, you might have seen some smoky pillars, but everybody got there at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I can definitely. I mean, there's definitely some credit that has to be given to when the cast themselves appreciate the property that they're portraying and understand the reverence that the fans have towards
absolutely.
it. And so like that was cool. And then the video of them getting the renewal,
that moved my heart. I was like, because that was like the big break for most of them.
Yeah, exactly.
And just kind of on the flip side, because I was debating on listening to this, but the One Piece Netflix adaptation was in a similar boat where like I think all the cast did a great job, but this was like done I think to a better level. And if I were a One Piece fan, like I would have said this easily because it's like, oh, you're making an adaptation of an anime. Like,
One Piece was crazy good as far as the adaptation. It took like 50 episodes and condensed it into 8 or whatever it was, and that was really good too. Yeah, that was definitely one that deserves to be mentioned.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that. Like that is a better show overall, 100%. But in terms of surprise, like I was like, well, Oda's involved, so I was like, how bad could it be? Whereas like with Avatar, I was like, well, I mean, we heard some dicey news about Avatar, so I was like, oh, I don't know about this.
Yeah. Like you said, mostly works. It was good. So, all right, top shows of 2024. We have top 3, just so you guys know. So, I will kick off our list. Number 3 for me. Number 3. The Penguin was number 3.
Ooh, I'm surprised. I figured you'd have this higher, to be honest.
Yeah, I actually thought this was gonna be higher too.
When I wrote my list, in fact, this was 2. But then I was like, oh wait, no. So number 3 for me, because like you guys knew about it on the podcast. I talked about it. I love this show. I mentioned how much I love this show. It doesn't even have to be anything to do with the Batman universe, and it's a great show on its own. And it still works as part of the universe. So it's kind of a cool mix. They didn't step on it too much, but they kept it in there. You know what I mean? So it was really well done. And Colin Farrell is absolutely, incredible as the Penguin. Like he's like I can't say enough about it.
I think he won something, didn't he?
I hope so. He was that good. He was fantastic. The makeup for him takes. Most people don't even know it's him. That's what's crazy. And it's so rare for that to happen nowadays in these shows because they want their stars out in the limelight. But he loves the character. He can't wait to do the movies and come back maybe for another season if they can figure out something that will work.
Yeah, it's so obvious when an actor cares for characters that they're portraying. It's like you're saying with Avatar. It's just like it just really it comes out with the performances.
Absolutely. So loved it. Absolutely loved it. Mike, you're number 3.
My number 3, I actually didn't even finish it, but I liked it enough. I just had trouble watching it due to which platform which it was on, which might not be a problem for me anymore, actually. And that would be Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I think made its way over to Netflix recently from Paramount. Because it was a nightmare on Paramount with all those commercials. But, I'm not necessarily the target demographic. I'm a big Turtles fan, obviously, but this is a very, younger skewing thing. And, I'm mixed on this Seth Rogen take. Like, I like it, but I don't love it, with them being more teeny, than they used to be. But, this is based on the movie from a few years ago. This is more of a traditionally animated cartoon, which I like. And the first 4 episodes there sort of you explore stuff for each individual turtle, and then the next one you're gonna have them all together. It's sort of like a retelling, almost a Rashomon sort of. They're all their perspectives on what happened, and they're all gonna get together and keep going. But yeah, it's fun. It's nice. Definitely a little kiddie. Didn't blow me away or anything, but it's more turtle stuff, and it's competently done turtle stuff, so I'm there for it.
Nice.
Cool. That's cool to hear. I have to check that out. So, all right, Corey, number 3.
Well, my number 3 is another anime, and that's Delicious Dungeon, or another Netflix. I mean, Netflix is killing it with the anime.
That was cool.
This show was like, oh, it's kind of cool. Like, you get this party going through a dungeon, figuring out what they need to do to survive because they don't have no money. But then it takes a turn, and you're like, oh shit, this thing, there's a lot more going on than you expect. And all the characters are really well portrayed and really well written. The adventures that they go on, different things, are great. And it makes you wonder about some of the dishes, kind of, it's like, oh, I wonder how I can recreate this in real life and stuff like that. So, yeah, more animation, a lot of animation on my list.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah, I've seen a couple episodes of this. It was cool. Like the first 4, I think I'm into it. So awesome. All right, Tony.
My number 3 is Fallout, which I think we will talk about in a little bit. So we can go to number 2s.
I don't know. I'm not covering it, but
Mike,
I mean, I assume Mike is on Mike's list.
Yeah,
so.
it's gonna
Coming
be
up.
Yeah.
next.
yeah, I mean,
we figured.
So. All right, Mike, you're number 2. Well, I mean, I'll
Why
go
not?
first, I guess. But you just go into number 2
Fuck,
because we know
go
it's
go
time.
for it.
Yeah, just go.
Yeah, no, we'll get it. I mean, we're all bringing it up a little bit here. The Fallout show, which I mentioned earlier. Yeah, I was surprised with it, but also, yeah, it's just good. Captures the vibe of the games, but adds to it in a way. It makes the game seem even more complete. You get sort of an answer about who, well, a very heavily implied answer about who shot first in the Great War, at least in America, or at least in the LA area of America at the time. And all these shows, it comes down to how compelling like the mystery behind it is, and as far as the plot goes, and there's an actual mystery here where you want to figure out why are these people stuck in this vault and cut off from everyone else? What's the deal with the vaults? What's the mystery of their vaults? And then also, then we go back to the history of the ghoul when he was a person and all that stuff. So we get all of these things coming together, and you just want to find out what's next and why. And you still want to like the ghoul because he seems so cool, but he's such an asshole.
Yep.
Everything he does is just kind of bad.
I just
but
rewatched it and with a friend,
Oh, cool.
and every time, like my warning with the ghoul is like every time he shows up, bad shit's gonna happen. And kind of like you're saying, Mike, like the thing is, I like him as a character just because it's not like he's likable in the sense of like, oh, like I totally hang with the dude, I would totally trust him. It's more like I get it, I get what he's doing. I don't maybe agree, but I get it, and that makes him a good character in my opinion.
Yeah. Yep. He definitely stole the screen whenever he was on it.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. 100%.
So,
so
that's great, awesome. And so that was your number 3, Tony. You said so.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, competition was fierce this year. So by no means is number 3 like low. It's everything was probably within a hair's breadth, and I had to like really think about the small minutia about what I liked over the others. But Fallout was great. I mean, I'm a big fan of the series since literally the first game on PC, which most people have not even played, and I don't blame them because it's a completely different style of game, and you can't even play it unless you're playing on PC. I don't think they made them available on like ports to the consoles or anything like that, to my knowledge. But as a longtime fan, they did such an amazing job with the environments and the settings. Like, at no point did I watch and be like, oh, this is like green screen to shit, or like this is just a fucking quarry in California, like fucking Obi-Wan, right? It's just like every time they had a location, like the stages, the props, everything made me believe like I was right there. Like we were watching literally what it would feel like in real life. So just based on that alone, would get huge credit. But all the characters are fantastic. All the main cast nailed it out of the park. Like when these characters have things happen to them, whether it's good or bad, a lot of times bad, right? You can't help but like feel for them, but also laugh, right? With just the shit that happens in the wasteland. So it's utterly fantastic. Like Mike mentioned, the mysteries, and I'd say that plural, as you go through the season, really keeps your attention because they reveal things, but still leave you like, oh, why? That is interesting. What is this thing in this dude's neck? And oh, the vaults were connected, and this one's has people that have been dead for a while. Why, what the hell's up with that, right?
Here's some answers, but here's some more questions.
Right, exactly. Every time they revealed some answers, there were more questions. They did a great job with those breadcrumbs. So it being completely original, but also relevant to the lore and the canon of Fallout, I think was massive. Because they could have used them like, just to be on the safe side, in case this bombs, maybe don't touch some of the topics and settings and locations and history. But they didn't. They committed to the bit, and the very last shot of the series hints at one of my favorite games. So I'm like, damn, this is awesome.
Okay, Cool. All right. My number 2 was Shogun.
I knew you talked about
Fantastic
this
show.
highly. I meant to watch it, but I didn't get a chance to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's won awards. This swept awards, and it deserved it. It was phenomenal, and like just the visuals were incredible. The acting was just amazing. To put yourself in that feudal Japan world, it was unbelievable. Like I'm gonna, I guess use this a little loosely, but Prime Game of Thrones, that's what this was giving us, and that's like, and it didn't fade, but it's only one season, so hopefully, like I'm the only thing that's annoying is they're doing a second season, and there's nothing from the book for a second season, so it's gonna be all their own.
Another book the guy wrote.
I didn't think I thought there was only one. There's 2.
It takes place further.
Oh, well, maybe they'll do that. Who knows? But they can't go on without these characters. Like some of these characters are like so big that they had to keep them. They got to do the next season with them. There was some awesome. I mean, just I can't even talk about the visuals. How good they were. They're so good. But I love the plot lines. I loved the mystery, the deception. It was awesome. The action sequences, everything in this was just like, yeah, this is a fantastic show. They really nailed it. I think it was on my most anticipated. It might be in my most anticipated last year because I was already psyched for it, if I remember right. But I'll have to go back and listen. So, but yeah, my number 2 is that. Yeah. So,
cool.
Mike, you did number 2. Corey, number 2.
My number 2 is gonna be on another list higher up, so I will save it.
Got it.
Hint, hint.
Oh, boy.
Yep. Your number 1 is gonna be shared too, but
I'm sure.
Tony, your number 2, Tony.
My number 2 is going to be Delicious in Dungeon as well.
Dang.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just because like this series renewed my this and Frieren, the year before at the end, really renewed my faith in anime. Just because, my personal preference is like I felt anime had veered way too much into the isekai series where somebody gets whisked away into another world. Which, don't get me wrong, like some of those are very enjoyable and some of those are like really good. But when almost the entire genre goes in that direction, it kind of gets samey, and it's just like, oh, okay, I've been here before. Or the other direction was like super ultra gory violence with like Chainsaw Man, Jujutsu Kaisen and stuff like that, which those are great. I still enjoy those, but Delicious in Dungeon, along with Fear, was like a breath of fresh air. I'm like, wow, this is an anime that would have appealed to me when I was like younger and first was getting into anime with like Slayers or Record of Lotus War and stuff like that, where it's more fantasy based. It wasn't, these characters were Slayers, like they were born and lived in this world. There was no like, oh well, I know the rules of how RPGs work, so we're gonna constantly throw references to like
overpowered, over-leveled character.
Right,
it's all about me.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I know I could just grind these creatures for whatever. It's like, nope, these are actual things. So aside from the fantasy setting, I love that they did take the genre of just like dungeon diving and being like, hey, this is actually a serious thing, and if you were experiencing this in real life, you would be, scared as shit because the lower you go, the more you run out of supplies, the more dangerous monsters and stuff you're gonna fight. And like Corey alluded to, it starts as this kind of like light-hearted. Well, after the first intro, it starts out very light-hearted, just kind of like, hey, well, we don't have enough money for supplies and food, so let's just eat the monsters we kill along the way. And it's like, well, that's kind of taboo, right? Because it's like, you shouldn't be eating monsters because monsters can eat people. So are you eating people when you eat monsters? Like question mark, question mark, question mark. Ethics, stuff like that. But it goes from that to eventually, there's an overarching plot here. What's going on? Kind of like I was saying with Fallout, like there's a mystery there. And when that happens, you're like, oh shit. And then it really kicks up in another level. And unfortunately, season...
Like warming and heartbreaking moments.
It is.
It's crazy. The character interactions are really good.
Right, and that's one of the things I enjoyed most because the main cast is just so likable. They all have their distinct personalities. Again, just like Fallout, where maybe some of them you don't agree with the decisions they make, but they are totally within character why they have the reasoning and the logic that they do. And it is just nice because like cooking really is a prominent feature in the series where they're like, oh, well, you add this ingredient, and a lot of times it ties in with like a meaningful recipe to somebody. It's like, oh, well, I know how to make it because of this reason. And you're like, oh, wow, that's kind of like touching and stuff like that. So really enjoyable and looking forward to the next season, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Good. All right. We are here, aren't we? Yeah. Okay. Um, number ones are probably gonna be paired up here. So
I
just gonna
assume since
spoil
I
it
didn't
now.
hear it from others, then yeah.
Yeah. So number
And that's why I
ones
didn't
for
even
my
say
well,
my number two, but my number two is
I
gonna
don't even
be.
want to speak for Mike here, but my number one was X-Men '97. So
Yep.
I assume Mike and
Yeah.
Corey, I assume that was your number two.
Mine
That
too.
was my
Okay.
number two.
We shall close with yours, which we all know what it is. But you're both. I think maybe I'm wrong, Tony. Maybe you didn't put it number one, but I'm shocked if you would. I would be absolutely blown away. But X-Men '97, back with, I mean, amazing. Like I could not believe this could be the most surprising. This could have been easily the most surprising. Right? Like they pulled it off, and not a chance in hell would I have said so at the beginning of the year. Not a chance. Especially because when you go back to the old show, it doesn't hold up entirely well. You know what I mean? So it's like, but they brought it
Not every
forward with
episode.
keeping it
Nope.
old. No, they brought it forward while keeping it old, and gave some limelight to some mutants that they didn't last time, and I just absolutely love this entire season. I cannot wait for season two. And animation was incredible. Mike.
And you know, I don't even agree with everything they did, but it doesn't matter. It's still
Yeah,
better than
yeah.
anything else I watched. It's just it grew up. Obviously, the core audience is, you know, well into their 30s at the least, that saw the original cartoon,
Yeah.
and you know, it grew up with them. We have this
40s.
more, yeah,
And
and
40s.
like I said, at the least, yes.
Yeah.
Um, so it grew up with them with this more mature story, and yeah, it's just more serialized. You have to think more. There's shocking stuff that happens. There's drama, and it's cool. But yeah, it makes you think too, and you're like, are the X-Men like, is Magneto right? Is he not? Like, what's going on here? Like, if they were real, would you really be cool with these superpowered people running around saying "Get off my back"? Who knows? But um, so there's lots to think about, and it just delivered on the premise and everything you would want for an updated, sort of revamped version of an old show that we grew up with. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
very exciting, and it ushered in like the year of X-Men, at least for me. I don't know if this was the year of X-Men for everyone, but they're on their way back, and this was one great way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think nostalgia played a big factor in my enjoyment of
Yeah.
this show and
Number
bringing
two.
this
Yeah.
show back and like bringing it back in the way that I remembered the show being. Like we talked about
Yeah.
with Final Fantasy. It's like I remember this game looking amazing and like
Yes.
and when you play it, it's like that's what they did with this show. It's like they brought it back, but they brought it back the way we remembered it as kids and made it real. And it's amazing that they pulled that off. And it's amazing that the stories still resonate and still apply today that
More
they're
so
telling.
today.
Yeah, no,
Yeah. I
and
mean,
so it's just
yeah.
hits on a lot of notes, and yeah, they have some great hero moments for characters, some real interesting choices and decisions that characters have to make, and that
Yeah.
you as an audience have to consider as well. And it's like, yeah, where are we going next? And that's very exciting to see. So,
Yeah.
easily a top show for me, and all my shows, all my tops are animated shows. So
Yeah, this like just
Yeah.
missed the cutoff for me, but I will speak to it just because it was so amazing. I mean, when we talked about this initially, when like, hey, they're bringing X Men back, and it's like, oh, okay, like I was skeptical because it's like,
yeah, it's a throwaway thing, whatever.
right? It's been so long. Like, is this just a shallow cash grab? And it easily could have been. It really could have.
Yeah. Well, look at how many that we've gotten of those, right?
Yeah.
Even on Disney Plus alone.
Yeah. Exactly. So for this to come out and come out so strong, especially with the one episode on the island.
Genosha?
Yeah, I was trying to tip you off. We'll say that. I think we'd say that. But that episode alone was just like so fantastic and really gave prominence to a character I didn't even like really care about in the original series. So that was remarkable in my opinion. I was like, oh, damn, I'm feeling something. I'm feeling something. Like, what the heck? I didn't expect that.
But it got spotlight in a couple different things.
Yeah, absolutely. But it just goes to show the strength of the characters and the story that can still persist to this day. That, you know, whenever they debuted in the 60s.
And
maybe,
there's
or...
real consequence to the actions that they had in the show, which a lot of times you don't see in animation, and especially American animation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, guys. You're number one. Tony?
Oh,
Corey?
easily.
We both
Arcane.
Yeah, Arcane.
Season 2.
Could have
Netflix
been
just
on my
done
list.
it. I mean,
yeah. Before it could have been anywhere on my list, but go on. Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Arcane season 2 just upped the ante as far as what we got with season 1. The turnaround was quick, and like for a show that was just so big
on that scale.
Yeah, as far as not just like budget wise, but they didn't know what they were getting, and like they didn't know what the reception would be, but the scale and budget and what they put into this show initially, you're like, how are they ever going to do this again? And then they come out and just do even more with it, which is it's amazing. They're introducing new characters, or spotlighting new characters a little bit more, and it's just like this lead up to this big thing that's happening that has a very, in my opinion, very satisfying conclusion. Like there's a lot of times you're like leading up to something, you're leading up, and then it's just like, oh, what do we do here? I don't know how to finish it. I don't know what we're supposed to like. How do we make everybody happy? It's like, you don't need to make everyone happy. You just need to make sure the characters are getting the closure that they need, not necessarily what you as a viewer, but the characters themselves. Like these are the things that these characters need to complete their stories, or to set them up for whatever's next in their journeys or whatnot. And I think this show does that like so well, and it leaves doors open for certain things to still be viable, which leads to speculation and more talk about the show as after it's already been aired and been on for a while. So I can't say enough about it, because visually, like you said with Shogun, like visually just mind-boggling what they're doing here. I don't want to talk too much. I know Tony, you got stuff to say about it too.
Go on.
Yeah, no. What can I say? But it's beautiful. Like this is, in my opinion, another thing where it's like, that whole meme where it's like, this is art. Like you just see the series and like the love they put into the animation, like just the animation alone. I think it would still probably make my list. But back with compelling characters, stories, plot threads, twists, turns, heartache, and love. It has really everything that you want. Action, obviously. It has everything you want from a series that's grounded in something like this, and it does so remarkably well, to the point where I'm like, damn, like how did they nail this so well right out of the gate when they've done really nothing in this to this degree before, and it really put them on the map. And for Quiche, like I'm just so excited to see where they go next, even if it's not a League of Legends project, but I would obviously hope that it would be. But they really made characters that are just so remarkable and memorable to people that have never even played the game. Corey and I will get into it on the Gamecast coming up, but we went to a gaming convention this past weekend. We saw people that were cosplaying these characters, and so many of them that I've talked to, it's like, yep, I never cared about League of Legends before. Never, ever, ever once liked League of Legends at all. And watch the show, and it's like, damn, okay, now I'm a fan. Even if I'm not playing the game, I'm a fan. And I think when you can do something like that, that says a lot, And just like earlier, like Fallout, like as soon as Fallout came out, all those old games topped the charts. It made Circana like top 20, I think. Fallout 4 and 3 did, or something like that. The following month that Fallout hit the charts. So it really just speaks to why we're seeing these companies do these efforts and stuff like that. But also just it's important to have strong characters and strong stories, compelling narratives, because you can only sell people on graphics. You can only sell people on tired cliches. So often before it's like, hey, we want to give people something worth watching. And I think we'll see that this year with Last of Us continue. And some other things, which obviously we'll get into next week with our most anticipated. But really quick, just to wrap up Arcane, it's rare for a series to get me really emotional, but this series had so many moments. And there's one episode in particular that explores some of these characters in kind of an alternate universe, which I know is like kind of a cliche itself these days, or a tired trope. But when you see things happen and how they played out so differently, it's just like, damn, like I would want an entire show based on that like just there, because you could do that. You could easily do that, and it would just be equally as satisfying, if not more.
Yeah, I was gonna mention like there's an episode in the Last of Us series that everyone talks about because it's a departure from what the Last of Us. It's like you have this dark, dank world that everyone's living in. It's all bad. Everything sucks. And then like, but there's still beauty in living and what life could be. And that's kind of what this episode is doing. It's different because it's saying it's more of like, this is if people made different choices, what would their lives look like?
Yep.
And how different these characters would turn out just by a single choice or something like that. And how a character in that we know and have been watching for a while, how different their life is and how a unique and smart and funny and beautiful person they become when they don't make a certain choice in a different point in their time in their life. And it's just like heartbreaking at the same time. It's beautiful, and then you get to see that, and the characters go through, and the character that comes out of it, it's just like that changes that character, and it changes that character's view on the character that he is seeing that life, because there's definitely a, I guess it's like he has feelings towards this character in a negative way, and then it's like, whoa, it just flips on its head. It's like, wow, there's more to this person than I thought, and it's just amazing how they do that, and makes you as the audience do the same thing. Like, this character's got way more layers than I realized, and I want to explore that even more now.
Yep, the line between love and hate is very thin.
Yeah. Well, you're muted, Jim.
Yep. Sorry, call time. Yeah, it was a fantastic series. Great animation. I mean, the visuals were incredible. Like you guys said, it was just amazing story, and they stuck the landing, which was really key for it. So awesome that they pulled that off. So, all right, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for this TV shows of 2024 episode of the Moviecast. So just to recap, this disappointings were Squid Game for me, Acolyte for Corey, Batman for Mike, Cobra Kai for Tony. Surprises were Fallout for me, Fallout for Mike, Ranma for one half for Corey, and Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix for Tony. Our 3, 2, 1s were Penguin for me, Shogun for me, Penguin, Shogun, and X-Men for me. And then let's see, Corey was Delicious in the Dungeon, X-Men Arcane. Mike was Turtles, Fallout, X-Men, and then Tony was Fallout, Delicious in the Dungeon, and Arcane. So that's our best of 2024. Can't wait for 2025 to get some more shows out here. We'll see you guys over in the Gamecast, and
next week might hear about more what we're looking forward to. So
absolutely, can't wait. See you guys soon. We're out.